Well, I usually stay in ancient times in all of my videos, basically. And one would wonder why I would even want to speak up on this new fake Snow White that they're coming out with. But as I've shown you before, when we talk about mythology, some of these tropes that they use and the whole essence of the story itself goes back farther than the Brothers Grimm, which is where most of these come from, that Disney has adapted. One wonders why they can't take another one that's not well known either and adapt it in. In reality, most of these movies and things that everybody know of, Wizard of Oz, Peter Pan, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, all of these ones that we have here were kind of not as well known till they came out and made the movie out of it, and then now it's thrown back in your face. One wonders why they can't take another story, but then again, I guess still I would feel real odd about it, and everybody involved should, whenever they take a story that's perhaps Danish, like The Little Mermaid, with a red-headed girl and the whole 9 yards, and then just turn it around and try to race swap it, and then make it to where she doesn't want the boy to kiss her, and all of these weird ideas that they tried to put out in that movie. One would also think that after all the debacles that Disney's had, that they would stop this BS and actually try to put out something that would be more what the audience really wants versus this virtue signaling BS, which is what it is. You would think that after the first 3 or 4, even if they had one in the works, they would probably scrap it or have somebody rewrite it and recast it. But no, see, what you don't realize is that they don't care. This is Disney, and they used to live off the people, and then they got so high on the hog here, they don't even care about the people anymore. They almost have an attitude like, well, you're so used to it, you'll just consume anything and make us rich. Which hasn't happened here in these last few movies. And it's been going on for years now. So again, someone would think, well, you've got to stop doing this stuff. One of the earliest memes that came out on you've got to stop doing this stuff is, what's next? Snow Black? See, you couldn't make this movie with anybody other than a white porcelain girl. And with the new pandering to midgets or dwarfs or little people, or which way you want to try to virtue signal and call that out now, because we've made up the idea that midget, in other words, are disgraceful to say. It's extremely disgusting to turn around and try to say, well, the words that we had for people were disgusting, whenever all they really were is descriptive. Here we're looking at the new adaptation, which, hey, they took a step away from trying to put black people in everything and made her snow brown. I don't know if you've ever heard the story about eating yellow snow, but that's pee and you don't want to mess with that. But what's brown snow got in it? Did they not virtue signal? Oh no. Oh, wow, that's been over it the whole time. Oh no, no, they didn't. Oh wait, yeah, they did. Look over here. The 7 dwarfs are no longer 7 dwarfs, and the story is not even the same story anymore, for they've got 1 dwarf here on the end, some kind of token thing or something, and then they've got a mixed guy, a couple of white guys that actually don't look like dwarves or miners or anything, really. And then 2 black people that aren't involved in the story or mentioned ever, wearing silly outfits that look like they're in the Lost Boys, which in the last movie got changed into the Lost Kids because we wanted to introduce girls into the idea of Lost Boys, which is really just destroys the whole motif of the movie whenever you start doing things like this. But they can't quit. So Lost Boys have girls in it, and black people, of course. One would freak out if they didn't put Asians in there, and so the 7 dwarfs, who are all related to each other, somehow would be different races. Does that make any sense to anybody? But they're not 7 dwarfs anymore. They're 7 virtue signaling people that are all normal, and 1 dwarf. And someone said that Peter Dinklage, the guy from Game of Thrones, and he was in Elf. Remember him in Elf? That was fantastic. But someone made the comment that maybe he took that idea of "call me dwarf one more time" out of the Elf movie and virtue signaled whenever they found out that they were going to do this. And so they pretty much knocked the idea of even dwarves getting a job in the movie industry, which is hilariously sad. I actually grew up with, in my class and on my Little League baseball team, a guy that, well, he was our mascot in school, and they had got to make a new outfit for him, and it was cool. It really was cool. It was a good experience. And all the kids from the years before and years after liked it very much. And that guy, Jeff Ayers, ended up becoming Baby Bop on Barney the Dinosaur. And he's been in other movies and things too, but it's hard to get a job as a little person. From what I understand, Jeff never had a problem with the word midget or any other word that was associated with it. I think one time we actually had a conversation about this, and he described that dwarfs are not midgets, and he went into a whole explanation about it. But then again, whatever. I got to see him at our 20-year reunion. Dude's doing fantastic. It was one of my ex-wife's highlights to end up getting to meet Baby Bop. But because of Dinklage here, it looks like they've taken the dwarfs out of it, well, all except for 1. So there's still 1. So then people see that, and then they go, what'd you do to all these rest of them? What are you trying to do? It's the 7 virtue signalers. It's the SJW crowd. The hard work of mining and things like that, is that supposed to be associated with these people here? That they've inserted into a story that never should have been? Oh, they don't like that motif. Well, it's amazing how many people did so much hard work back in the days to get us where we are. But when we get to this point here and somebody's asked to do hard work, they just can't seem to be bothered. Even whenever that seems to be the most that they're suited to do. Probably for a reason in the first place. This girl on the left isn't even the actress, Ziegler, that they chose for it. But she's also the same color and looks pretty much just like her almost. Doesn't have the singing voice that the girl has apparently. So when this first came out, they tried to say this was a fake, that somebody had fan made this or something else and da-da-da. Then lo and behold, it's not a fake. It's actually the second girl, not the stuntman type of thing, but the stand-in or the whatever that's being shown here, and they put them in full outfits and wanted to film them to see how it all looks. And one of these pictures, or a couple of these pictures, got out to the public, and when it did, Disney was so embarrassed off of what they were showing here, they said that was a fake. Then within a week, we find out that's not a fake. That's just the other girl doing it, and these are your 7 dwarves, or 1 dwarf and the virtue signaling crowd. I don't know if you're tired of this BS yet, but it's past disgusting that people feel like you can't even do something that everybody loves and enamors anymore. You have to get virtue signaling points by taking the story and ruining it all. Whether it's putting in an overly strong woman into the idea of Star Wars and all the other ones that they did it to, even Peter Pan, where she fights off 2 full-grown pirates. You could see that happen with Pan because he's got stuff going on, but then what are you trying to do here? Well, she's a girl, but she don't need no help. That's not the trope. The essence of the trope is there's a woman in the tallest tower besieged by a dragon and da-da-da and all these ideas that go on. You ever seen Shrek? They even go into that. They go, surely you know how this story goes. Oddity in that is that people know those are all fairy tale creatures and out of mythology. Most people don't know where the talking donkey comes from. They're like, where's that all come from? Well, believe it or not, it comes from your Bible. It's the story of Balaam and this magic talking donkey. I've talked to people about it, including my wife, who got heavily into church and got to hear him for years and years talk about everything, and she called BS on that. And I go, no, look it up. Here, let me just click it into here and show you. You know, talking creatures in a story actually shows you that it's mythology. It's one of the things that's a trope that's in there somehow. Well, the Bible starts off with a woman grows from a rib and eats from a magic tree because a talking snake told her to. Hard to believe people can't see through that and ask for more of the bullshit. If you're going to look at it esoterically, that's one thing. If you're going to pretend that this actually happened in some way in the face of dinosaur skeletons and all we know now, that's delusionary. Really, just like this attempted portrait of a girl that is Snow White. She has the capability because of who she is. And then, of course, princesses and things or whatever, women stay pale, da-da-da. All been changed here. Snow Brown. Like after it turns to slush and the snowplow ruins and it doesn't have that pristine point anymore. Kind of ruins everything. But if the thing is about a girl who is Snow White, besieged by an evil queen, gives her an apple, all this little idea that comes on, and then she wants Prince Charming, the white guy, to show up. We haven't seen who Prince Charming is yet, but who knows? They'll probably make it a black person somehow in this. Each one is more crazy and stupid than the next, and actually any bit of virtue signaling would be looked at as being pathetic. And now that we all have it right in front of us, we've all seen it so many times that everybody's caught on, and it's getting old. And by getting old, I mean, well, a couple of years ago it already got old to the point people were just waiting for the next stupid so they could talk crap about it, and Disney's not making any money. They're blowing things out like crazy and not getting anything out of it, really. All they're really getting is virtue signaling points and trying to take a mythology that's well established and just ruin it. Try to take something that is a trope from the Brothers Grimm and the Wayback Machine, and instead of showing it in any way that, try to give it a new spin on SJW Rainbow Flag Freakout. If people are willing to do things like that, these people probably should be in charge of making movies about such things. But, you know, Disney's waited a generation to try to introduce something new, and they haven't introduced anything new really. They've just been taking the old trope and then respinning it and race swapping it and then making the girl where she doesn't need any help. Again, the trope is a princess besieged by a tower and she needs some help. Same thing Luke Skywalker had going on. If she didn't need any help and everything was just fine, the movie stops. But yet, we have this bullshit keep going on and on and on. I don't know how you feel about the taking out 6 of the 7 dwarfs. Which one's dopey? Is it a black guy? Oh no. So you can probably tell they went all through this. But I don't know how you feel about it. But whenever they take tropes like, well, Snow White's not white anymore, and you're like, well, how are you going to pull that off in? I mean, it's the name of the story. It actually says she has skin, it's light, it's snow. I mean, and this one doesn't. I mean, what are you trying to do here? It may have been a little bit of trouble to find a white girl or some girl from Sweden or someplace like that and keep her pale through the last summer when she gets the job, so she ends up being pale enough to even pull off Snow White. In looking at this, I actually found a girl, but it's not the one that I'm thinking of, that I saw not too long ago. I don't know if any of you have ever watched any people go to Disney Park and ride rides or do anything, but whenever the new Star Wars thing came out, I was like, well, what the hell did it look like? Well, I could try to find something, but hey, here's somebody going to walk through it with a camera. Or even go on the rides. So that's pretty cool to be able to show and everything. Although they didn't pull in the old Star Wars idea and everything, and it kind of flopped. And now that billion-dollar hotel idea they've got going on, where you stay over a couple of days and they really rake in money off that, is shutting down. They didn't do it right. Well, they made it all just right, but they didn't turn around and try to have any Luke Skywalker or any earlier effects. Well, they threw the Millennium Falcon out there and did a couple of things, but then they don't have anybody from that. It's all the new idea. Well, you can tell that they want to key on that. It's their new little moneymaker kind of concept, but that ruins it for all the fans. I don't know if you're aware or if they're aware or not, but if you don't have fans, it never becomes anything. And how you make fans is you don't do this type of BS that we're seeing right here. Or any of the other 10 movies that they tried to do it to. Or take a trope that's like Star Wars, which is supposed to have been something like a Western or an opera type thing in space, where you'd have to have these common tropes for it to work out, and it's all led into it now, but whenever you get there, they're going to take a lady, give her purple hair, she's overbearing, makes all kinds of decisions, and in the process, they try to belittle all the male characters that led them to this point. They've really ruined Star Wars. You know, the first ones were so amazing. The second ones almost had some little bit of problems with it, with Jar Jar Binks and, you know, this is pod racing and things, but it was cool enough to go with. It fits enough. But then the last 3, and the couple they threw onto it to try to virtue signal and do all these other things, are just past disgusting. Don't really fit. Looks like they just got lazy with it and tried to interject things they wanted to have there versus a story that could be believed or even go through it. Just like this Snow White idea. How lame is it going to be that it starts off with Snow White and she's not white? With the 7 dwarves and they're not dwarves. I wonder at what point they're going to realize that no, because it's still going on. Some people thought right after they did the first few, they must have had them lined up, so they went ahead and did them. But then now these last 6 or 7 off of it, you know damn good and well that they know it, it's a failure, and then they lean into it and go ahead and do it anyhow. And to try to pass them off to China, what they do to these movies and things like that, which is real strange that they would go through that trouble to try to get money out of China, but not out of Americans. Or even give them something that they expect. Versus some SJW virtue signaling lost boys somehow are the companions of Snow Brown. Just watch Mark Dice's video on this, and it set me off to go ahead and do this. This is just one of the tabs I had going, and I was kind of waiting for one more thing to happen so I could go ahead and make a little video out of it, or think about it and decide, nah, I don't want to talk about any of this stuff. Well, in reality, I really don't. But after watching Mark's, I was kind of inspired on the idea of just at least getting it off my chest where I feel better having talked about it. Little Red Riding Hood over here on your left. One wonders if they're going to redo Tarzan. And if they do, if they want to race swap a black person into, oh, I dare you. Funny, we can't have that. And there aren't any stories that we could ever hear about that have black people race swapped out to any other race, whether it's a Mexican, an Oriental, or a white person. It's all going one way. And it's key characters too, just blatant right in your face. It's like, and here's a bucket of shit. Let me know what you think below. I've probably ranted on to this far enough. I thought I would do it in 5 minutes, but you know me, I can't shut up. Thoughts keep rolling around in my mind, and then I look at this picture and I'm like, what the hell are they trying to... Again? Again? I haven't heard any dwarves come out and say they're pretty pissed off they couldn't get a chance at a job in the movie industry, which from way back when they've been attached to. No one makes movies where they have a whole slew of dwarfs, do they now? In fact, when Peter Dinklage was put in that role that he got, and then now he's got so powerful he decided to tell you don't put dwarfs in the movie, and everybody wants to virtue signal to him, or that he's the voice of dwarfs that are wanting a job. For years, it was only Billy Barty and a handful of people that got those jobs. They were the go-to. Some of those are gone now. Where's the go-to? There isn't. Well, there's one. We're going to put one in there to show you we should know what we're supposed to do, but and then half of them are black or a mixed guy and and Snow Brown, and what the hell? Wonder how much they're going to have to change out of the story. Is she awaiting a kiss by a white man to resurrect her? I guess we'll just have to see on that. I'm predicting out of a 1 to 10, people give it a 2.4. That it gets terrible Rotten Tomatoes and all kinds of things from people because everybody's sick of this, at least from what I see. And they have been for quite some time, so you should have stopped quite some time ago, but you can't quit. You're trying to get the most virtue signaling points for your bonus bucks, that they made up a deal where now, if you virtue signal like this, you somehow get some points. Making a game out of life? What the hell are these people trying to do? Anyhow, let me know what you think down below. Peace.